Welcome back to this week's special edition of the Geschmack of our podcast, Parshas Achrei. Here, recording live with Bracha Brook. We begin. I hope everyone had a Moiridik Pesach. Hope it was uplifting and you were zoichet to see yourself as a free man. And now we begin with the weekly Torah portion with a life-changing vart, and I am not exaggerating. Perek Yudches, chapter 18, verse 4 and 5. God commands, Kemasei Eretz Mitzrayim Asher Yeshavtem Ba. When you lived amongst the Egyptians, Lo Sasu, do not act like them. Ukemasei Eretz Canaan, and like the Canaanites, Asher Aniyav Mevi Eschem, that you were with, Shama there, Lo Tasu, do not act like them either. Uvechukos Eyem, and in their chukos Lo Telechu, you shall not go. There is a controversy as to how to exactly translate this pasuk. Uvechukos Eyem Lo Telechu, and in their chukos you shall not go. Chukos, we know, means statutes. Well, if you didn't know that, well, now you know. What does statutes mean? It means their bylaws. It means dvarim nemusos shalahem, the things that represent something that's not a Jewish idea. Rashi asks, what exactly is the lav here? What exactly is the prohibition of uvechukos eyem lo telechu? Now, if it's something that's been prohibited previously, aka anything to do with what someone who's not Jewish would eat, well then that's been mentioned already. And if it's something to do with someone that you can't marry, that's about to be mentioned. So what exactly is the prohibition of uvechukos eyem lo telechu? Says Rashi, you see it for yourself inside. Kegon tartios v'etstadios, going to their theaters and to their stadiums. Now, I asked the great Haggadah Reb Nosson Stein, does that mean that I cannot go to see an opera? Of course, only men singing. I cannot go to see my favorite sports team? And he thought about it, and he told me I should come back for the answer. And when I came back, he'd explained to me that uvechukos eyem lo telechu means a Jew is considered 1%er. He is part of the 1%. Out of the 7.8 billion people in the world, we make up less than 1%. And that means that we have a great responsibility. And that means that we have to act that way. So, in the previous generations, stadiums and theaters were considered places that Jews should not go. In this generation, also there are many different prohibitions that a person could violate by going to a theater or to a stadium. And a person should ask their local Orthodox rabbi if it is a good thing to do or not. But it is not uvechukos eyem lo telechu. It is not a violation of this prohibition, because it is not a davar miyuchad le non-Jew. It's not something that's specific to a non-Jew. If someone who's not Jewish wears a hat, does that mean that a Jew can't wear a hat? No, because only something that is miyuchad to a guy, to a non-Jew, is considered a uvechukos eyem lo telechu. Now, this is obviously a conversation filled with much controversy. And I'd like to shed a little bit of light on the conversation. The Kuzari, the great sefer written in the 1100s by Rebbe Yehuda Halevi, tells us that there are 4 types, or 4 entities, or 4 different types of living beings. Hashem divided it up into 4 categories. There's a domem, the lowest level, a rock, an inanimate object, a ruler, inanimate object. There's a level higher, something called a chai. Bacteria is alive. Trees, grass, all of these different entities that are alive. Then there's something called a chai. A chai is something like an animal. An animal lives, breathes, can do many things, can move. And then there's something called a medaber, someone who could speak. That's the top of creation. Uvechukos eyem lo telechu is referring to the top level. A non-Jew is moiridik. Your neighbor next door to your house is a medaber. He's the king of life. He's someone who you have to respect. He's a non-Jew. He's moiridik. He's a ruler of the world. But there's something even higher. And that's someone who's part of the 1%. Someone who is granted the ability to become part of the chosen nation. That means that non-Jews, moiridik amazing. A yid. We can't even put into words how special that is. And with great power comes great responsibility. The Rambam Maimonides tells us that the idea of being influenced by one's surroundings means that it's not just something that you can fight and something that you can make sure doesn't happen, but rather it's a way that the world is governed by its bylaws. It's the way the world works, like gravity and like Newton's laws of motion, that a person is affected by his surroundings, period, and end of story. That same Rambam tells us that if you have nowhere good to live, you should live out in the desert. A person has to know that when we live amongst people that stand for different things, no matter how hard he tries, you will be affected by your surroundings the same way that an object that's 12 feet up in the air will fall to the ground if it's thrown up. Thrown up in the air, I meant to say. Here tells us, do not go in their ways. We have to make strict guidelines to be able to protect, because after all, we are one of the 1%ers. Non-Jews again, moiridik amazing. A yid, wow, what a schus. V'chai bohem, and to live like this. I'd like to suggest one area that this may be true and perhaps even controversial, but I believe that it is worth it to say. If you do some research into what the Great Sunday is about, Sunday, I believe, gained its roots from the sun god. And the idea that one of the 7 days of the week should be a off day, besides for that of the great Shabbos Kodesh, is something that is not a Jewish concept. If a person works a whole week and he's supporting his family so that he can pay his bills, but he'd rather be involved in mitzvahs, but what can a man do? What can a woman do? We have to do the things that we need to do to support our family. It can be revealed to him and to God what his ultimate agenda is when he actually has free time. On Sunday morning, when he has the ability to do whatever he wants, he doesn't have work, does he put time away to go and study? I believe that we may have been desensitized to the idea of Sunday, and we may have lost focus on what Sunday is about. If a Jewish man can't find an hour of time in his day to study on a Sunday, or even a half hour, perhaps we have been mashpi'at, we have been affected by our surrounding cultures. I believe Sunday is a place where we can start to begin to set strong boundaries, to make sure that uvechuk osehem, and in their ways lo telechu, because being part of a 1% means that you have to act like a 1%. Again, non-Jews, moiridik, but a yid, wow, what is chus to be part of the 1%. In Mirza Hashem, we will have uvechuk osehem lo telechu, and we'll represent and make a kiddush Hashem every single day, and especially on Sunday.